The product managers at eXmark and the regional sales manager, Jan McGee, are going to talk a little bit about the history of eXmark, what goes in to make it an eXmark and what really makes it different, and then get into what the cost of ownership is. It's not just the cost of the mower, but what really goes into the total cost of ownership. So I hope you enjoy this.
We are eXmark. We build the mowers purchased 2-to-1 by the most respected commercial cutters on the planet today. But our story begins here, on the plains of Nebraska, where the pioneers who traveled here 160 years ago came with nothing but the guts and determination to carve out a community on the banks of the Big Blue River. And that same determination exists today. We know that if we're standing still, we're only moving backwards. So we're compelled to work our hardest, to innovate, to get better every single day, and with a responsibility to grow with integrity. A responsibility to the people who are more than names and faces, but the families behind the eXmark brand who depend on our products to feed their families, to help propel our nation's economy, and to protect and beautify the land. Like our forefathers, we still know how to get our hands dirty, out where our mowers must work as hard as the people who use them. You see, listening is a habit we learned 3 decades ago and is core to our values. It's why our mowers incorporate the most innovative breakthroughs, learned only when you're face to face with people who spend their days on an eXmark mower. Listening is why only on an eXmark is there both the operator comfort and hands-on technology you normally expect to find in the seat of a luxury automobile. It's why maintenance is simple, and how we've perfected dependability with fewer parts and low-maintenance engineering. So if you could ask an eXmark customer, does our heritage, engineering grit, and determination to produce the world's greatest mowing equipment matter, they would scan their beautiful lawn, think about the time saved for the things they most enjoy in life, and say, yeah, it matters. Engineered by us, trusted by them, ready to work for you. We are eXmark.
For a limited time, upgrade to one of 30-plus collegiate limited edition full suspension seats when you purchase select eXmark Laser Z or Radius riders. Visit exmark.com/college for complete details.
So I'm Jan David McGee, Regional Sales Manager here at eXmark, and with me today is Jonathan Guarneri. He's a Product Manager for eXmark. We're going to run through these. We've talked about this for years, about cost of ownership, the economic advantage of an eXmark machine, and why we do what we do, and how we build the machine to save cost for not only the landscaper, but what the cost advantage is of an eXmark versus something else that they may have, and what that cost of ownership means. So with that, Jonathan, let's just walk through these.
Yep, definitely. So before we kind of get into the details of cost of ownership and the economic advantage, I think it's important to kind of set a baseline of kind of what we see the landscaping business being today. So as far as the market goes, it's an aging population. All those baby boomers are growing up, and they're looking for lawn care services to take care of their property, so they have more free time and can be outside and enjoy life. And then we're also seeing an increased focus on green spaces, right? And overall ground appearance being more pleasurable to be around, and a great environment. As far as landscape contractors go, we hear time and time again, labor. Labor is an issue. From a business operations standpoint, productivity means profit. And what are they looking to do to help also increase that profit? Reduce fuel, maintenance, labor, downtime. And an important part of the relationship that we have with our dealers is serviceability, right? So Weingartz, for example, they are crucial to eXmark's success and eXmark's customer success. If you have an issue, you know you can bring the mower in and it's going to get taken care of. And we're also seeing an increase in competition. There was an interesting article that came out back in, I want to say 2018, about the number of stand-on mowers that's out there in the market, for example. Back in the early 2000s, it was 2 or 3, and 2015, 2016, 20 plus OEMs were making stand-on mowers. So competition is increasing.
And with that, talking through that, Jonathan, I mean, you think about, back when stand-ups really did just first come out, it was only about 3 or 4 markets that really did strong. Other markets didn't adopt it at all. I can remember Kansas City was one of those markets. I traveled St. Louis, and it was a walk behind market, 200 miles difference. They didn't even use stand-ups and didn't even think of it. So it is changing, evolving all the time. One of the things you had made mention about labor shortages, and one thing that, we in sales and you guys as product managers, we looked at, these 96-inch machines. Why? I mean, it's a matter of, can a guy show up to work? Can I save an entire person that day? Can I take one machine and do what 2 or 3 guys are doing? And that's some of the reasons we hear what landscapers are going through, and that's why we try to build those products that way. Is a 96-inch for everybody, or even bigger for that matter, that we might be thinking about? No, it's not for everybody. But once you look at some properties maybe you weren't bidding on before, that now you have that opportunity, because it's not a labor thing. It's about using a machine that's productive for your day. So
most definitely. And then kind of what we're seeing is, as far as what's going on in dealerships with other brands, premium consumer brands are kind of transitioning. Seeing that a lot with brands like DeWalt, for example. Price points are sliding down, and margins are declining. And then, overall commercial mowing equipment, handheld power equipment is growing exponentially. There's just a lot of options that are out there. So when it comes to the eXmark brand and who we are and what we're about, I love the picture that's in the background here. I am fortunate enough that every day I come to work, I get to see that sign, and I take great pride in that, because eXmark is all about being focused on our customers, right? We want to listen to landscape professionals, understand what's going on, what their challenges are. How can we help them overcome their challenges, right? And it doesn't have to be a huge, big thing. I mean, it could be something really small. So there's just eXmark is all about commercial cutters and doing whatever we can to help make their lives easier.
When you look at we will respond with innovation, everybody's idea of what innovation is different. Mine is sales, and yours and product managers are engineers. I look back in what we call VOC, or voice of the customer. Pandemic has changed that dramatically right now for bringing, new equipment out. What really got eXmark started is going out and listening to the landscaper. It isn't that we don't have great engineers and great product managers, but what really made the difference is taking machines out, getting ideas off the landscaper. Their voice is huge. I can remember taking one machine out, and they said, "You guys changed the height of the cut and the transport." And I said, "Oh, how so?" And they said, "Well, it used to be where it didn't lock itself up, and now you've got this lock on there, and every time we go across, we look back 10 feet, and all of a sudden we got 10, 12 feet of uncut grass, because the silly thing locked itself up in a transport. Before we knew it, we had uncut grass." So we just simply went back and made that lockout change. And it was not anything that we even thought about. It was what, a landscaper thought about. So when we talk about innovation, it doesn't have to be huge technology. It's a simple thing about what we ask about what guys want in the field, right?
Yep. So getting into more of these economic costs and cost of ownership, we need to understand what our customers' real costs are of mowing. What does that really mean when we say, what does it cost you to mow a property? Then we'll get into kind of how our products can help generate more revenue. And then getting into kind of what Jan was talking about. What can we do to help? What problems are out there that we can help you guys solve? So when we look at the overall components of mowing costs, the actual cost of equipment is relatively small in comparison to a lot of other factors. You can see here on this chart that labor represents 50% of the overall cost. Then you have 9% for fuel, 15% for maintenance, and 10% for downtime. So 84% of the cost of mowing has absolutely nothing to do with the equipment cost. So if we kind of break this down a little bit, and you always see big companies show these pie charts and graphs, and it looks really good and pretty, but how do you get these numbers, right? Let's put some real dollars behind it so it makes sense. And the numbers that are up on this screen are just some averages, right? And you could change them how you want. They're all relative. So when we say that labor is 50%, so if we say you're going to pay a guy, you're going to need him for 900 hours out of a year at $10.42 an hour. That's $9,375 you have right there just to pay an operator. Then we get into downtime, right? What does downtime mean? Well, let's say a unit is down for 47 hours out of that 900, and you charge $40 an hour. So when that unit is down, that means you are forfeiting $40 for every hour you can't use it. And we say, that might be 47 hours. That's just over $1,800. Then we get into the maintenance side of thing. Oil, filters, blades, the time to do these maintenance items, right around $2,800.
Let's interject something there a second. When we redid the laser back in 09, one of the things we were looking at is how do we save a landscaper downtime and maintenance? And we did a part reduction of almost 40% on that machine. Well, how do you do that? I even thought about it myself. You don't cheapen things up. You make things easier to maintain. I looked at some of the bearings and stuff we use, some of the idlers that we use that we actually got a patent on that help not grease so much. Spindles that would last a couple of years instead of I look back at 05, 06, we had spindles that were making it maybe 600 hours. And now our worst case scenario today is we're probably at 12 or 1500 hour on our worst case spindle, where we're upwards of $2,000 or 2,000 hours in some of our best spindles. So that makes a big difference in that downtime and maintenance cost and what we think about in building a product. Do we always hit a mark, Jonathan? No. We've had some blunders, in my lifetime of 15 years. But we always come back and make it right. We're not perfect. We don't always get the best vendors and the best products sometimes that actually cause some downtime, but we try to make it right in the long run. So we're not saying here that we're the most perfect out there, but we try to make sure we do what the right thing is for the landscaper.
Most definitely. Continuing on looking at fuel costs. So let's say, for those 900 hours you're running a unit, it's using about 3/4 of a gallon per hour. That's about 675 gallons at $2.50. You're looking at $1,600. So your total cost to just simply operate a mower is well over $15,000. So what would a 5% savings look like on that? It'd be about close to $800, right? So knowing that equipment cost is only 16% of a contractor's overall expense, is it possible for us at 5% off of that 84% that has nothing to do with equipment? Of course it is. So how do we do that? One example is speed, right? So, and these are, again, just relative. So we're looking at a 1 mile an hour difference and still getting a great cut. So you don't have to go back and double cut. There's no need to do anything like that. What does that mean? Well, that's doing 20% more acres per hour at $40 an hour. That's an additional $8 of revenue per hour, right? And we say we're doing this for 900 hours out of a year. That's $7,200 right there, just by having the ability to go 1 mile an hour faster, still have a great cut. $7,200.
And I'm
More
sure
revenue.
there's plenty of guys on the call today that'll say, we mow at whatever. I mean, we understand that guys mow faster than that. We understand guys are more meticulous and mow slower than that. We want to make sure that our deck can operate, at that 7-8 mile an hour. You get much above that 8 mile an hour, your quality of cut really goes south fast. Are there machines out there that'll go way faster than that? Yeah, we got machines that'll go 12 mile an hour. But we don't want to go above 12 mile an hour because that ends up costing the landscaper money. You get that overheat in the hydros. You really cook the machine at that point, and it costs them, downtime and money. But the reality is we want to make sure that our decks can mow efficiently and cut good. I mean, we are the quality cut guys. That's what we hang our hat on. So we're not here to tell you what you can or can't do as far as your speed, but we know what we try in our park and all over the country in quality of cuts and what our machine will do. So.
Yep, definitely. And, again, not telling guys how fast they can or can't mow, but I mean, just think about your properties, right? Do you have a single property that is as flat and smooth as, let's say, a professional football field or soccer field? If not, every little undulation you go over is a bounce, right? And the faster you go over it, the more violent that bounce is going to be. So you get to a point where, yes, you can mow at, let's say, 16 miles an hour, but how effective is that? What does it look like? And what's the impact on the operator, right? I mean, that could be a really rough ride there.
You better be strapped down in that seat with the seatbelt on. We had our one of your buddies, product manager, try that in a 96 across some rough field is going crazy fast, and he actually had to put the seatbelt on so he wasn't getting ejected out of the seat. So.
Yeah. And what does this mean? More revenue at less expense. That's what our equipment can provide to you as a landscape contractor, making more money and not having it cost you as much. With that, I would like to say thank you to everybody. I hope everybody has a great and successful 2021 season. I know there's a lot of challenges out there with the pandemic. And I truly believe light is at the end of the tunnel. And I personally can't wait to get back out in the field to be talking with you guys, showing you guys some of the new prototypes, some of the new stuff we're working on. And as cliche as it sounds, ready to get back to normal here.
Get back to the open houses where we can interact with our customers and talk about our equipment.
Have some good steak.
Anything on these slides, anything we want to discuss, we'll have the open discussion here today. We'll have all the product managers and myself there for question and answers. So feel free to speak up and let's talk about it. With that, have a great day.
Thank you.